That gets me every time. And of course, our audience doesn't hear it. Yeah, I had a good thought to start this, and as soon as she said that, this meeting is being recorded, out it went.
I think this is Mike's secret obsession. He's just like, hey, folks, you don't even hear this meeting is being recorded. But every time you don't hear it, it makes you wonder, well, what are they talking about? And the answer is we listen to it so you don't have to.
Yeah, and you don't
Hi, folks. How you doing this evening, Mike?
We're doing good, and welcome one and all on YouTube and in podcast land. You are listening to the Tangent Kings. I love it. Welcome once again to the Tangent Kings podcast. I am, of course, your humble servant, G. Michael Francis. And I'm here with my partner in crime, Mr. JJ Benks. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing very well this evening, Mike. How are you?
I am good, despite the fact that my left ear drum just went pew.
Geez, things are flying over everywhere. It's like Vietnam all over again.
Oh, really?
Getting shot at from all above. They're coming from the walls. Crap! I'm hit.
Are you talking about Vietnam or are you talking about replicators? I don't know.
It's Vietnam Wars 2. Yes, I'm talking about replicators.
Oh, good lord!
The robot little insect replicators that fill up your walls and your mind and your body, so you can't sleep.
Which is funny because I was just watching that episode.
A Vietnam Wars 2? Oh, I love that show.
No, Stargate, you idiot.
That's a Stargate. That's like Vietnam Wars 3. You got to get to the second part. You can't just skip around these things, Mike. Oh, my gosh. We have to get you educated. Anyway, so we got an article this evening, Mike, it sounds like.
Oh, we do. But before we get to that, just want to wish everybody an early happy July 4th.
You didn't wish me a happy July 4th. Where's this coming from?
Are you part of everybody?
You wait until we start the show to say, hey, happy July 4th, everyone.
It's like you're included in everyone. I figured that would be more efficient. Ow.
I want to be named specifically. Name? What, did you just hurt yourself, Mike?
No, you're blowing out my eardrums, dude.
How am I blowing out your eardrums?
Also want to wish a happy belated Father's Day to all you fathers out there.
Belated Father's Day? You didn't even wish me a happy belated Father's Day.
You're not a father, as far as I know.
As far as we know. Doo-doo-doo-doo.
And I know you a lot better than you think. My wife got me a nice present for Father's Day, you know? Do you let me speak?
No.
Well, I'm going to speak anyway.
There you go. Good job.
I don't know if you...
Mike gets a backbone. What is that?
That's a cruet for holding whiskey.
Cruet?
I filled it with my absolute favorite. Well, a crystalware.
Crystalware?
Yeah.
Is that like China? Chinaware? Glassware? I don't know these things. A cruet. That's like what you tell your... that's what you say, hey, guys, I want you to go crew that tank. That's what you tell them. That's what you call a cruet. Is that what you give them? It's like, hey, good job crewing that tank in a timely fashion. Here's a cruet for you. That's what it sounds like.
You uncultured swine.
I'm the uncultured swine. I'm carrying this episode. You're welcome in advance, by the way. Yeah, he spits out his tongue. In the words of Stephen Molyneux, not an argument. But, yeah, so she got you a cruet. She got you a cruet, and you've got a glass of whiskey. You've got 3 glasses of whiskey?
No, 3 cruets.
3 cruets? You got 3 tanks to crew, man. That's what... If I had a little Lego army, that's what I'd tell them. I'd be like, hey, guys, you need to hop into this tank and crew it right now.
Okay.
Get a little
Oy.
Lego build.
But yeah,
I'm gonna get my half track. I'm gonna build my half track, and I'm gonna have a couple Panzer tanks. And it's like I can't see your whiskey cup. I mean, I already get 2 half tracks, and then I'm gonna make a rocket battery on it, on the 250 half track, and there's gonna be a Panzerwerfer, and it's gonna shoot like 10 rockets out of it, but it doesn't actually shoot because it's a Lego one. It's gonna be
meanwhile,
awesome.
my soul is draining out of my nose.
Meanwhile, Mike's soul. Ah! We gotta get you booze the F up, man.
I'm already on my way there.
Well, Frola, when did you join this podcast?
You shall never know.
Witchcraft. It's like, what is this microphone?
Yeah, but yeah, seriously, happy Independence Day, everybody. No, in advance, and it's gonna be a really good one for the state of Tennessee.
Yay, Tennessee!
Because in 1 hour 54 minutes, as of right now, constitutional carry is about to go into effect.
Wow, you're really inebriated. How much whiskey have you had? It's been only like 10 minutes.
I just got a little tongue-tied, dude. Give me a break.
You got a little tongue-tied. I don't know, man. I'm on to you. I don't think Mike can hold his whiskey.
Shut up.
Mike on the rocks. Not this week. I gotta tease you a little bit, man. You give me that look like, thanks. I'm like, yes.
Just remember, I have powers of editor.
You do. But I think you'll leave this in. You know, it's funny. We were having this has popped into my head, to, tangent away. We were having this conversation this afternoon. I was having this conversation with a couple friends who are in seminary on the Discord, on our fantastic Discord. And I was asking them, I gave them a document that for a pastor that a church I used to go to, I said, hey, he wrote this for a friend's wedding. How about you guys review this and tell me what you think, and then I'll kind of share my thoughts. And they shared their thoughts, and I said, I think that the way he wrote this, it's reflective of the particular pastor we were talking about. I said, what's reflective here, and it's not just reflective of this particular person, this particular pastor, but this seems to be kind of a problem in a lot of Protestant circles or the American church in general, is that there's this attitude of, I'll phrase it like this. Mike, have you ever met theologians or pastors that seem so caught up in the technical details of theology, right? Or they're so in this academic bubble as far as theology is concerned, that they just seem like their heads caught in the clouds. Have you met people like that before?
A few times, and I've seen some of them who are like analytical to a fault, or to your point, I'm the one who's overly analytical. Ask my wife how I know. As a matter of fact, I remember one time I was listening to a pastor, and he was talking about he was doing a series on the 12 disciples. And on that particular day, he was talking about Peter. And he was reading from St. Matthew's Gospel. And now this is a point where I just wanted to jump up and say something. Well, I didn't, because one, I wasn't there. I was watching on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, he's reading out of Matthew's Gospel. He says, and I say unto you, you are Peter, and then slams his Bible shut. And the Catholic side of me wanted to jump up and say, open that back up, Buster, finish the passage.
So you heard that, and so it's just someone that was a little, well, okay, so here's my whole point.
Yeah, he got caught up in his own point.
Right.
So what he was making.
Right. So I'll kind of phrase it like this. So this particular pastor is somebody that one of my friends, who will go unnamed, he said that he's not a great preacher and he's a really, really bad shepherd, which I would completely agree with.
Well, I need more details than
right, and I'm going to try to keep it. I'm going to try to keep it vague. But my friend said that about this particular pastor, and in the context of the wedding that I specifically mentioned a few minutes ago, with him, he's somebody that's it's very much my way or the highway, right?
Yeah.
This is the correct theology, and if you don't get it, you're wrong, or that you just aren't worth my time, kind of thing, right? It's not so much like an elitist. It's not like I'll finish this thought, then I'll let you have the floor.
Well, no,
It's
I
not so
was
much.
saying I've been like that.
Oh, I see. Gotcha. So it's not so much that he's this like a leftist elitist where they're smug, that they have this Cheshire grin on their face every time they tell you something, like they're looking at you lying in your face. It's not that kind of smugness or elitism. It's more like, I'm. It kind of rubs off as a little bit of intellectual superiority.
Uh-huh.
Not relatable, very impersonal, and it's almost like I'm going to present this brilliant thing to you, and if you don't understand it, that shows you how brilliant it is.
Oh, I see it all the time, not just in theological circles. I see it all the time in like political discussion circles. I see it
Right.
at my job. You get these people everywhere, and I tell people, my dad's actually a martial arts instructor, and there was a word that Grandmaster taught him. It's called dochi.
Dochi.
Dochi, which, if I remember correctly, it translates to drunk on one's own thought or drunk on one's own speciality.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, you see dochi all the time, and I remember especially going through public school. Ooh, what a joy that was! Yeah, it was dochi everywhere, yours truly included.
Yeah.
You get those people. Well, I'm going to show you why 2 + 2 actually equals 5, and look at how brilliant I am. Oh, yeah. Shut up.
Well, that's exactly my point.
Yeah. Or another version. We had this kid in our class who his excuse for everything was, and I quote, "My mama worked 2 jobs. I don't need this." I wanted to slap that kid upside the head so many times.
It's interesting you mentioned that too.
I'd be like, nobody freaking cares, dude.
Yeah, like this has nothing to do with your mom. No one cares about that. Right. Stop making excuses for why you can't do it, otherwise leave, because you're never going to do it at this rate. An acute case of excutitis.
Yep.
And unfortunately, there's not a lot of vaccines for that these days, but the good kind of vaccines. But
and YouTube, if you censor that, I'm going to smack you upside the face.
So my point is that when you're presenting a speech to someone, it's that, is it designed to help someone understand someone, to educate them, or is it to show how, like you said, I'm so drunk on my own thought, I'm going to show you how amazing of a person I am, which is rooted in insecurity and egotism, that you don't like yourself, so you're trying to strut by using big words or using a lot of theological jargon.
Sorry, that just brought up a story to mind. Bishop Sheen shared this one, where he was getting into a cab, and he's having a conversation with the cabbie, and eventually it came up. He got to his destination, he paid his fare, and he was just about to head into the building when the cabbie said, "I really do appreciate you, Bishop Sheen. I learned a lot of big words while watching your show. I really like your voice too. It's got a lot of animosity in it."
Wow. That's funny. Well, it's funny, but like the whole point, the point I'm trying to make too, is that it's theological jargon that doesn't really have any substance to it. It's very empty. It's very, because Mike, you've read stories before, right? Where it's very wordy, right? It's wordy, and it's not really saying anything. It's a lot like big paragraphs and like paragraph after paragraph, and it's not really saying anything.
It sounds like it came from Gilbert and Sullivan.
Yeah.
And yes, I just made a reference to I am the very model of a modern major general.
You are? But I thought you were a sergeant.
1, I was a corporal. 2,
I am the very model of a modern major Marine corporal.
Oh, what am I going to do with you?
I got a grin on your face. I got a reaction. I like that one. I stand by that joke. But anyway, the whole point I'm trying to make is that there isn't an emphasis on teaching almost, right? To pass a
Yeah.
knowledge onto other people so that it can kind of impact their lives, kind of thing. And that was kind of the whole point. And I mentioned that kind of because that was something that I grew up with in my church that I'm no longer a part of. And then I kind of noticed that in a lot of Christian circles too. To the extent I don't know, but there are a lot of theologians out there, like leading church figures, that are just like totally lost in the theological woods in this, to the degree that it's just like they're totally out of touch with reality.
Yeah, I can see where you're going. And obviously, immediately, Joel Osteen came to mind. That actually came up today at work. I just started reading Glenn Beck's, Arguing with Socialists.
Is that
And someone pointed, and someone had pointed to the book and went, "Isn't that rich pastor?"
Well,
I was
that's
like,
pretty...
well, no.
So, out of curiosity, Mike, at your workplace, which is anonymous, obviously, but just like what kind of people work there per se? Like,
I live and work in rural Tennessee. What do you think?
Well, the way you describe a lot of these people is that they sound like some of them are really high strung.
A couple of them are
high strung leftists.
There are a couple.
Which is like to me in a rural Tennessee, it's just like how does that work? Like, explain that to me.
Well, idiots are idiots everywhere.
Yeah. Are they the people at your workplace that are like that, are they older? Are they younger? Or like what kind of age range are they?
Same age as I am. Thereabouts.
Okay.
I really don't interact a lot with people.
Mm.
I find it easier to interact with a camera.
And thus an actor was born.
I was on stage once. What
was that one joke you had where it was the Democratic Farm and Labor Party, and they were setting up a speech to be given at this
I think you're talking about one I stole from Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, tell me the joke you stole.
Okay, so there was this Republican politician who was traveling through some territory controlled by the Democratic Farmers League.
Mm-hmm.
And, he was stuck. People were curious, so they asked him to give a speech. And he looked around for a podium, and the best thing they could find was, a pile of what some people up there would call fertilizer. And, he gave a speech, came down, and a woman stopped over. She says, stopped and she said, that is the first time I ever heard a Republican speak. And the politician says, "Yes, madam, and that's the first time I've given a speech from a Democratic platform."
Especially these days, no truer words were said.
Indeed. Don't get me started on some of this nonsense I've been hearing over the past couple days.
What nonsense have you been hearing? Because I got a couple I could screen share and show us.
Well, we'll start with the Olympic athlete.
Oh, yeah?
Ugh.
Why don't you tell us about that, Mike?
Well, just my immediate thoughts. There's this athlete whose name is Gwen Berry. Mm-hmm. She first rose to fame in the 2019 Pan American Games. Mm-hmm. And recently for, I believe, the Olympic tryout games, she placed third, so she's on the team to go to the Olympics. But she starts making this, I'm not going to say protest. She starts doing things during the national anthem, which, if you're on a high school football team or track and meet, whatever, I don't agree with you, but heck, you do you. As long as your coach will let you do you. Mm-hmm. But when you're going to represent the United States in an international competition, no. And yeah, I get it. Freedom of speech, wonderful thing, but
Mhm.
no, it has its place.
Well, let's kind of put it this way too: is that there's, I mean, you even take it from the example of the military.
Yeah,
You
because
see,
I remember once upon a time I could be court-martialed for expressing a political opinion
well, let's,
representing the Marine Corps.
well,
Like, for
here's
example,
my,
here's an example real quick, and I'll let you share yours.
okay.
Uh, Not long after I got stationed at Camp Lejeune,
Hmm.
I joined the Knights of Columbus, and I attended
Okay.
a March for Life in
Hmm.
Jacksonville, North Carolina. And it was just a small thing, but I I remember during that climate, especially, I could have been court-martialed if I had went to that march in uniform, representing the Marine Corps,
Hmm.
and that's sort of what I'm getting at. I
Right.
mean,
Well,
it's one thing to express your personal opinion representing you,
yeah.
but when you're representing the nation, or in my case, representing the Marine Corps, that you leave politics out of it.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, it's like this point too. I was going to say is that you salute the rank, necessarily the person, right? You represent the institution or the symbolic representation of what that means, right? So when someone, what did she say? She had a shirt that said "activist athlete" on it.
Yep.
What she's saying is that she's saying it's a religious thing. It's a religious fervor of what's more important. It doesn't matter that I'm in the Olympics. What I want is saying my politics and me being standoffish and promoting myself and my ideas. It's almost like she needs to stop the whole Olympic event and draw attention to herself, saying, "Hey, look at me, everyone! Look at me!
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
important. What I believe matters."
Yeah, and no, I'm sorry, but her god is the camera.
Well, of course it is. It's attention, because what you're saying is that not only are you a deeply insecure person deep down, you're not only saying that, but what you're also saying is that millions of people, I need to steal all their attention away from, they're paying to come see the Olympics in some capacity, or people are taking time out of their days to watch the Olympics, saying, no, it should be about me, everybody. Look at me. What if I ran the zoo? And it's like, if you ran the zoo, nobody would come to the zoo because you don't know how to run a business. That's an unrelated. But the whole point I'm making
Or
is
a country.
that, yeah, right. Well, that's exactly right. AKA Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, fuck off. But it's that nobody cares about what your politics are because nobody asks your opinion. You're just spewing them. There's an expression where it's victim puking, right? Where look how much of a victim I am, right?
Yeah, as I'm making upwards of 400 grand a year.
Well, and that's exactly the
I'm not
irony,
saying that's what she makes, but I'm just sort
right?
of spewing a number out there.
Well,
For example, like Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion, that sort of
coronavirus.
What?
Coronavirus. Cardi B said that.
Oh, and it also Colin Kaepernick. That's the one I was trying to come up with, and I'm a victim. I'm also a multimillionaire.
Right. Well, it works. He shows you that they're grifters. But the whole or here's an example too. When you present yourself, when you're presenting your religious views, and you're so unreasonable about them, right? Number one, nobody wants to listen. Number two, nobody really cares, and it completely says that I have no merit to what I'm actually saying because I'm not only resorting to public making a scene, right? Instead of saying I'm making a reasonable point, I'm resorting to spectacle and in other cases violence. I have to resort to this because that's the only way I can actually get people to either submit to my beliefs or not. It just shows you don't have an argument. If you're reasonable, and leftists ultimately,
or holding people accountable,
which is air quotes of saying I want them to bow to what my religion teaches is
I've otherwise
is a
let them
of,
lose their entire livelihood and let them die of starvation.
Right.
I actually read a quote recently, and this actually comes from one of Robin DiAngelo's books, I think. Because I'm pretty sure Robin DiAngelo actually either said this or wrote this. I can't remember what the quote was exactly, but it could boil down to, there is no such thing as a good white person.
Yeah.
See, that sort of line sounds vaguely familiar.
And that's exactly it. And they don't, and I don't think ultimately they care. People like Robin DiAngelo, I don't think they care. They don't care about they don't care whether their views are racist or not, right? Because they reinvented a whole different definition of racism to give them moral justification to do what they want. They've written their own moral code of ethics to justify being evil to people and saying, no, you see, comrade, this is good, this is justice. We're going to justify looting and stealing and pillaging, right? We're going to go rape and pillage effectively in any capacity that we want, and with the moral justification because we're victims. So that's part of it. The other part of it is you create the space to do that, but the other part of it is like these people just want to be violent. You look at just their actions, they just want violence.
And not to mention the changing around of language to boot. It's
right.
We can't even agree on common definitions anymore.
No,
so how the hell are we supposed to have a conversation? I think that's actually part of the point. I think prevent a conversation. Let this be the conversation.
Well, right. I mean, the thing about with communists, for example, what they do is, and this even goes back into the Chinese Communist Party in the 60s. Mao himself even said the same thing. That leftists, when they say a word, they don't mean the same word that you and I mean. They mean something totally different. So when they say start a conversation, start a dialogue, right, or interject it into the national discourse, what that really means is a dialogue and a conversation is both people talk and exchange ideas in a calm fashion. When they say start a dialogue, what they mean is one person does all the talking, another person doesn't say anything and just sits there and takes it and listens and absorbs it.
And then bends down, kisses the shoe, wipes it off.
Yeah.
I've actually seen people doing that. It's like people.
Yeah, that happened this past week. What was it? It was the group Watchmen for Israel, where they just run around taking the Bible out of context, screeching, like yelling the Bible at passersby and telling them physically bow and kiss my boot heel.
Yeah, those guys. I can't.
They've been around for years. They do spectacle stunts like this.
I
don't know if they have jobs.
I'm almost tempted if I ever run into one of those. I'd say, okay, so you claim the authentic priesthood. Yeah, on what authority?
Yeah, and then they'll take another passage and then they'll just yell, you. They'll do that. Well, the funny thing, you look at their YouTube channel, for example, and it's all like, oh, look how much we're getting attacked. We're the victims here. Even though we're being belligerent and making public scenes, same kind of context, right? It's we're going to make a public spectacle to harass passersby or harass people.
Yeah, and going back to Gwen Berry, oh, look at how these people are treating me. They're saying mean things, which half the time it's like, this mean thing is just, okay, if you're going to do this, then you shouldn't be representing the U.S. in an international competition.
Absolutely.
So it's like, oh, look, I'm the victim here. No, you're a jackass.
Yeah. Let me get your hot take on this, Mike. Let me share with you a CNN article that we were kind of looking at right before the show, kind of read you through it, and then you tell me what you think. So this is June 29th, 2021, taken from CNN.com. GOP hypocrisy on Gwen Berry and the national anthem. And there's a linked video here. And apparently Gwen Berry said, I never said that I hated the country. Says U.S. hammer thrower.
Yeah, it says U.S. hammer thrower who turns her back to the national anthem, which is a unifying symbol for the country, for its ideals, albeit not lived up perfectly, but we've been building on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what was the other thing I said too right before we started? I had a really good thought, and no, it had
It'll
nothing.
Come back.
It'll come back.
Yeah, but the whole point is that while people are turning to the flag, putting their hand on it, singing the national anthem, which personally I think, and I'm biased, mind you, I think is the best national anthem and the prettiest national anthem of pretty much every other national anthem out there. It's a really beautiful song. All the other ones don't sound interesting at all.
I mean, it is beautiful, I do love my country. I love my national anthem.
Yeah. I mean, the USSR did have a really catchy one, but
Well,
that's
that
obviously awful.
and still used today.
Yeah, of
The
course.
tune is, and it's just
It's
interestingly enough,
memeable.
its original title was, oh, not title, but it's the original song for that tune was the anthem of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union.
Doesn't surprise me. So this article is written by Jill Flipovic, who wrote a book called "Okay, Boomer, Let's Talk: How My Generation Got Left Behind." And she spends book saying how millennials are, how we got crapped on by everyone. And it's like, okay, that doesn't help build anybody up, but all right. So she says Republicans do sure have a bizarre sense of definition of patriotism in air quotes. Prominent members of the GOP are outraged that hammer thrower Gwen Berry silently turned her back away from facing the American flag while the national anthem played at the Olympic trials in Oregon Saturday. Oregon, where does that sound familiar? Berry, who placed third and qualified for the Olympic team, was holding a bouquet of congratulatory flowers in one hand as she then held above her head a black t-shirt that said activist athlete. In response to this peaceful protest, it's just her throwing a hissy fit. A vocal cadre of Republicans are livid. Dan Crenshaw said she should be kicked off the Olympic team. And Ted Cruz tweeted over an article about Berry, "Why does the left hate America?" And it's like, well, what else? What other conclusion would you come to when somebody does something like that? Which, I mean, if you're coming from Oregon, depending on what county in Oregon you're from, that could be a possibility. Former governor of Wisconsin, Scott Walker, tweeted, "What's wrong with these people?" No, correction. He says, "What is wrong with people?" and added that when he was growing up, everyone stood for the American flag. If Gwen Berry is embarrassed by America, then there's no reason she needs to compete for our country at the Olympics. Well, yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. And then Jill goes on. She says, then somehow this became an issue laid at the feet of the White House. On Monday, a Fox News reporter asked Press Secretary Jen Psaki about it, and she said that while she hadn't discussed it with Joe Biden, he's incredibly proud to be an American who has great respect for the anthem and all that represents, especially for men and women serving in uniform all around the world.
Yeah, he has great respect for what the anthem stands for, as he threatens to nuke half the country.
Don't forget the F-15s.
Yeah, and the F-15s, yeah, which just makes me want to get an AR-15 even more.
What's that one line? What's that one line from Babylon B where they said Emperor Palpatine says the rebels
would need a Death Star to take on the Empire?
Yeah, otherwise you should go home. So,
but yeah, this is coming from the same government that was almost toppled by an unarmed riot.
It was just like, yeah, give me a break, right? Yeah. It's funny. They when they play the victim, their government is so fragile. But when they're all powerful, right?
Mm-hmm.
When they're in power, they act like we're such victims when you criticize them. But then when they're not victims, when they're not being criticized, they run around just telling out everyone's a piece of crap. Mm-hmm. She continued. He would also say, of course, that the part of the pride in our country means recognizing there are moments when we as a country haven't lived up to our highest ideals, and that means respecting the rights of people granted them by the Constitution to peacefully protest.
On its face, well, vague, but it had its merits. But you don't do that when you're representing the actual country.
Well, it's almost like can you imagine how
it's like it's deliberately vague to try to draw out sympathy, which I guess I just fell for. But
what she's trying, I mean, she's taking a line right out of Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, where you say, yeah, you make the opposition, you hold them to their own ideals, and you point out how they don't live up to them. And so she's saying the same thing here. It's like, well, the U.S. hasn't lived up to its ideals,
and we've been fixing it.
Yeah. And so, because we haven't lived up to our ideals, therefore, it's okay to completely disrespect the country.
And I think, in recent times, especially, the ideals have been somewhat twisted. I mean, nowadays we live in we live with this idea of freedom where it's just, if you say no to anything that people want, that equals fascism.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a break.
Well, it's also interesting too because the state. We talked about this, and Carl Benjamin pointed this out many months ago, where you operate like it's not freedom as in a human right that's endowed within you from the creator. It's not just that. It's state. The state defines your freedom. So it's the freedom to do what the state approves of you to do, but not to stand against the state. But for her part, Berry continues. She said that she was set up, according to her, that she wasn't told the anthem.
Because playing the anthem never happens at a sporting event. God forbid, where did that come from?
Yeah. She said she wasn't told the anthem would play while she was on the podium.
Oh, I never give said me that a freaking break. You're standing on a podium on a ceremony similar to that of the actual Olympics. What did you think was going to happen? Were they going to play the Internationale?
Yeah. Well, also the national anthem is like a 3-minute song. So, okay, it surprised you. So just turn around and put your hand on your heart. And she said, I never said that I hated the country. Never said that. All I said was I respect my people enough to not stand or acknowledge something that disrespects them. I love my people, point blank, period. Okay, what you're also saying is that my people, that the United States flag doesn't respect you. And she's saying the United States flag doesn't respect my people, and my people are at odds with the United States flag. What she's almost saying is that my people are.
Then I come back to my original point. That why the.
Well, what she's saying is like, okay, so let's reverse what she's saying. If she says, I love and respect my people enough not to stand or acknowledge something that disrespects them. So that by that logic, right, I don't stand by something that disrespects my people, right? So I'm going to turn my back. I love my people, so I'm going to turn away from that. It's like, so it really sounds like you hate or don't respect the country because it doesn't respect you. You're saying that it doesn't respect you. It's like, dude, you're gaslighting people. So she goes on to say, the plain fact is her actions are protected under the very constitutions that conservative patriots claim to revere, and it'd be wildly inappropriate and frankly un-American to remove her from the Olympic team for exercising rights of free expression. People process. So this is what leftists do. They want to censor people and block them. They want to they cancel them, take them off social media. They say don't give them a platform. They attack people if they host them. They get them kicked off the internet. They silence them. They throw them into the metaphorical gulag.
Exactly.
So you can't talk.
I mean, you got athletes making millions of dollars a year. Oh no, we can't attack their free speech, especially when they're turning their back to the American flag. And I think at one point, either her or somebody else was actually making faces and making like fart sounds during the national anthem.
That's funny.
But you got your regular Joe, just somewhere working a regular job. And he says, I would prefer Catholic monarchy. Oh, we gotta silence that guy. We gotta make his family starve. We gotta hold him accountable. Let his family starve. He's an outcast. He deserves this. It's like,
yeah, which is it's so when they always say it's anyway. So she goes on to say that. So when leftists say that, right, but then when you criticize them or say, well, that person should be kicked off, when you apply the same standard to them, all of a sudden there's suddenly the most avid defenders for freedom of speech. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you're not for freedom of speech.
No, you're not.
An Olympic track and field starts.
What's that?
She just starts playing it. That's why people don't go on to CNN, because you start playing stupid stuff. Let's play something that sounds like an ad.
You're talking about me getting boozed up for this episode? Remember, this was full when we started.
Yeah, you're crew it. Let's crew it. That's the second tier. So she goes on to say it's particularly rich how many of the same conservatives who are criticizing Berry are also some of the chief whiners about the so-called cancel culture, and that they have had much less to say about the very real acts of insurrection and attacks on America that have come from members of supporters of their own party. Well, here's the thing.
Yeah, there's a very big difference from some schmuck who works at 9 to 5, stating his opinion, just living out his day-to-day life, not expected to represent the whole country. And someone going to the fucking Olympics to represent the United States of America.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, too, is that what she's saying is that what she's deflecting here. She's trying to say, oh, don't look at me. Don't look at this group. Look at those people who are daring to criticize. So she's going to ad hominem attacks because she doesn't have an argument. So she says supporters of election loser Donald Trump stormed the Capitol complex, threatened to hang then President Pence. Okay, well, here's the thing. They didn't storm the Capitol. They were led in by the police. And it was a peaceful protest. They were unarmed, by the way. It wasn't an insurrection because they didn't try to topple the government. If they were, they would have brought guns and they would have tried to, they would have physically tried to shoot people. They didn't do that. There was a very, very, very small group of like 2, 3, not, it wasn't 2 or 3, 4, but it was like 2, 3, it was a very small group of people who were violent, and the crowd there's footage to show that the crowd condemned that violence. And there's evidence to suggest that those people either may have very well been infiltrators or FBI agents. But they keep calling this an insurrection. And it's like, this isn't an insurrection. This isn't an insurrection. And, there's evidence to the contrary, but she's trying to get you to say, oh, you're whining about the election, and now you're trying to talk about the sacred duty of our liberty. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So she says, frantically scrambling for their lives in a shocking assault at the seat of our democracy. See, here's the funny thing. Where all of a sudden this jargon started coming from, like as soon as Donald Trump got elected, they start talking about like the sacredness of government, like it's this holy shrine, the seat of our democracy, right? Or it's Biden saying we the people means we the government, like as if we are the Church of Christ. Well, do you remember when Biden said that from the seat of in the State of the Union? Biden said that when the Constitution talks about we the people, it says that means the government.
I must have missed that.
Look that up. It's like we the people means the government. It's still on YouTube. Nearly 6 months.
And then this is the same genius who says, no, we have rights because of who we are, and we yield them to the government. No, you don't. First of all, our rights come from God, you idiot.
Yeah. Yeah, and these people are like, it's totally shameless. But she goes on to say that she's attacking Cruz here, and then she's basically so what she's doing is PR for Berry, pretty much. She's writing an opinion piece attacking every single one by name of Berry's critics in government. She doesn't actually list any of the other critics here. She's just saying, oh, these are the critics in government, and then she's saying, oh, cancel culture doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Well, here's an
I was going to make the point, but I'm tired of having to make this point over and over again. Not necessarily on video, but.
So while Crenshaw proclaims, Jill goes on to say, she says, and while Crenshaw proclaims that he wants to cancel culture and complains about a violent purge of all things that don't conform to the radical progressive religion, he has no problem with demanding Berry be canceled, kicked off the Olympic team for exercising her constitutional right. So she keeps saying that she's repeating her point. She's saying, oh, she's got a constitutional right to say that. And it's like you're playing this card. You're playing this double standard card where it's freedom of speech for us, but then we get to cancel you. And she goes on. It's a little bit of this rambling. She's just trying to make it that all the critics are hypocrites. For many conservatives, love of country seems to be something shallower and more performative. It's waving a flag, it's reciting a pledge, it's standing up for the song. Now what she's doing is saying, well, it doesn't really matter at all that people stand for the pledge. It doesn't mean anything. It's meaningless. It's postmodern, right? That the flag doesn't mean anything. Waving the flag doesn't mean anything. Standing up for a song doesn't mean anything. And then here's the ironic thing. She closes the article with. She says, that stuff is easy. There's no real work or sacrifice in blindly and reflexively proclaiming loyalty to your country. Protecting the very values enshrined in our Constitution when it's hard, that's devotion. That's the work of loving a country beyond performing patriotism. So it's interesting how she's saying performing patriotism doesn't actually mean loving your country. And then she says, and that's where so many Republicans are showing that their patriotism is less about a deep belief in American freedom than a desire to demand conformity, orthodoxy, and line towing. That's not freedom at all. No, that's exactly what your party's doing. You're demanding conformity. And by the way, she doesn't deny what Crenshaw said the left is violently purging all things that don't conform to the radical progressive religion. She didn't deny that. She just said he's an idiot.
Indeed.
Because that's what Jill's party is doing. She wants conformity, they want orthodoxy, and they want line towing.
Well, I wouldn't say orthodoxy, because orthodoxy means tradition, and they want absolutely nothing to do with tradition.
That's for sure. It's also kind of ironic on the corner here to the left. It's why the race fist is so powerful. Because it's the communist equivalent of doing a Sig Heil. It's not ethical. It's like you're...
Yeah, he's crossing the line, but he's right. Yeah. I mean, right. This means nothing. Except, when I was in 8th grade, chasing... I was Horton the elephant in Siskel Jr., and I remember chasing the Wickershams, after they take the clover, like this. Yeah. But yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah. Standing for the pledge, placing your hand over your heart. Yeah, that means anything. Yeah, that means nothing. Yeah, neither does this.
Well, you notice how what they're doing here is they keep doing this. What they do, they get you to pin. So they basically spin their opposition into this unreasonable position, and they say you have to adhere to that, right? And if you adhere to that, you're big. Basically, they create a position for you to be in, and then they pin you to it and say you have to conform to that opinion. And if you don't, we're basically going to tell you what you need to believe to make you unreasonable. And it's funny on OkCupid, I'll tell you this real quick. On OkCupid, for example, they ask you political questions on your profile.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because you want to make sure that whoever you're matched with is compatible.
Well, you'd think so. What I mean is political questions, like not like what are your political views. It's more like, do you support this or are you a bigot? Do you support this or that's what it is. That's how the questions are phrased. So instead of saying
like word for word.
No, so it's a little bit more insidious than that. So an example might be.
Oh, so it's like it's sort of like pick one of the options. Do you believe in, for example, a woman's right to choose? Yes, I believe in a woman's right to choose. No, I don't believe in a woman's right. I don't believe in women's rights.
That's exactly. So they phrase it where basically like you agree with it, or if you don't agree with it, you're an evil person. So for example, if they say, "Do you believe love is love?" Well, like, what does that mean? Mm-hmm. Now, a more descriptive question might be, do you support people to believe in gender theory to the degree that they think that there's more than two genders?
Oh, which brings us to that basketball player. Oh my! I keep forgetting the name. The name escapes me, and honestly, I don't watch sports. No, I honestly don't give a crap about sports.
Yeah.
Except that it used to be this, this nice little time, just, spend time on a Sunday. I remember we used to watch NASCAR all the time. Yeah. Oh, look, they're making another left turn. I wonder what's going to happen next. But yeah.
It's funny. How are we on time, by the way?
We could probably start giving some closing thoughts. We got about 10 minutes, but.
Okay.
But there goes that train of thought.
Mm-hmm. It'll come back.
No, it won't, because you leftists out there, if there happens to be a leftist watching, you drive me to drink.
You drive me to drink. So here's the thing, I think that I noticed over the past couple of years is that it's not just the hypocrisy, which they just plow through like a steamroller. It's not just that. It's a shameless hypocrisy. It's a shameless arrogance. It's a shameless, like they'll lie to your face. And they literally will just, because they don't deal in reality. They don't believe in facts. They don't believe in logic. They don't believe in science.
Oh, I remember what I was talking about now. Sorry. Sorry, it came back to me at a
Oh,
very
go
bad
ahead.
time. But I was talking
Yeah, go
about
ahead.
that basketball player.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was listening to Ben Shapiro today, and he was going over an article. Then, like the first 3 paragraphs of said article, you got the first paragraph. They use the pronouns they and them.
Mm-hmm.
Next paragraph down, the pronouns for the same person are she and her. Then the next paragraph down, same person, he, him.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly the point. Is that it's that they don't believe in any kind of objective, measurable reality. Right. There is no logic. Logic is racist. Science is racist unless it supports us. Well, we'll say it supports us when in reality it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Morality is racist unless it supports us. I'm surprised they haven't even said God is racist yet, but outright, the concept of God is racist. It's a white supremacy is God. Jesus is white as a white supremacist. I'm sorry they haven't said that either.
How many times have I heard that Catholicism is the white man's religion?
Yeah, that's
started
ironic.
by a guy in Judea.
And so they don't deal with that. So they can just that, and because they don't, and because they resort so much to ad hominem attacks and characterizing their opposition, and it gives them power, they've created all the justification and ability they need to just humiliate and just demolish and destroy people. And now they've got Rena activists, Rena riots on demand.
Rena riots. I'm gonna remember that.
Right. So there's a company here in Minnesota called Rain for Rent. How about Riots for Rent? Sounds like an episode of The Simpsons. Bart, in the future, Mr. Burns owns a company, not nuclear power, but actually Riots for Rent, and I'm the manager there.
Come with me, Smithers.
Smithers, what are they upset about? They want a higher pay, sir. Ooh, give them their higher pay, but make them kill each other for it instead with sharpened bottles and killer instruments. We'll cut the workforce in half.
Jump in and save the day. I am Fruit Batman.
Smithers, why is Homer Simpson dressed up as a Batman costume? Get him out of my office. Yep, hound, sir. Yes, send the hounds. But my whole point is just that it's they worship this naked force of power to that degree. Mm-hmm. That they can just do that. So it's this religious fervor that is so detached from reality, it just drives them to that, and they don't need to think about what they're doing. Like it shocks me. It honestly shocks me to my core. I'm just like, you do not.
It's just the level of stupidity, and
yeah.
It going back to Dochi. They think they sound so smart. I saw an article not too long ago. Came from Seattle. Yeah, it's like heat inequality. Evidence of systemic racism.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta be freaking kidding me. I mean, what's next? I stubbed my toe. Evidence of systemic racism.
Yeah, no, they actually think like that. Or they say like, oh, well, you see that in the crop planting, the wheat field, we should cluster all the wheat together instead of spreading it out so it grows well. We should cluster it together so they can all support each other. Just like in the communist revolution, we all grow each other to support more. And they actually did this in communist China, and they're just like, well, nothing grows here. I'm like, well, it's just all racist stuff. Like, what the F are you doing? Actually, no, I don't know if that was in communist China or not, but I heard that today. And I was just like, I completely believe that's true because they don't care. And that's the point. They really don't.
Exactly. And unfortunately, we are starting to run low on time. So please tell me you got a book quote.
I do. From Meditations by Marcus Aurelius.
In that case, Mr. Benks, your book quote, please.
The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts.
I'm going to have to meditate on that one.
There's a book about it.
I mean, I'll try to think about it tonight, but like I said, leftist, this was full to the neck when we started. You guys, leftists, drive me to drink.
I hope there's a reckoning from God on July 4th, 5th, and 6th. I sure hope so.
It might be on the 1st, which is now in an hour.
Fingers
at
crossed.
least in Tennessee, because we're about to have constitutional carry.
Yay!
But in any case, we'd like to thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Without further ado, we're just going to skip the BS. Hot tip bonum!
Hey folks, if you like our podcast, be sure to check us out on Facebook and also check us out on our podcast platforms, namely Anchor, Spotify, Google Cast, and others you can also find on Anchor. God bless.
And now for a quick blooper.
Oh my god! You said that! Mike, heresy! Mike's like, heresy!
I heresied so bad I actually aspirated on whiskey. That is not a good feeling. Woo, mama! Oh, it's the Irish stuff too. Woo.
No, we should cut that and splice that as a segment. But yeah.